The rain hammered the office windows like it had a grudge against the world, but inside the glass-walled conference room on the 22nd floor of Seattle's tallest tech tower, the real storm was brewing in my chest. I'd just tanked the biggest presentation of my career, stammering through slides on user engagement metrics while my boss, Elena Voss, watched from the head of the table, her blue eyes unreadable as Arctic ice. As the team filed out, muttering condolences, she didn't say a word, just stood there, arms crossed over her crisp white blouse, until it was only us. "Adeline," she said finally, her voice low and steady, like the rumble of thunder rolling in from Puget Sound. "Get in the car. I'm driving you home." And in that moment, with my heart slamming against my ribs like it wanted to escape, I knew my life was about to shatter, or maybe, just maybe, begin. I'd been at Voss Innovations for 8 months, fresh out of a nowhere master's in data analytics from the University of Washington, scraping by on entry-level pay in a city that devoured dreams like cheap takeout. Seattle was my fresh start after a messy breakup back in Portland, my college girlfriend, Sarah, who decided loving me meant controlling every breath I took. I fled north, trading rainy evergreens for even Rainier skyscrapers, telling myself I'd focus on the job, not the ache that still twisted in my gut whenever I saw couples holding hands under the Space Needle. Elena Voss was the reason I stayed. At 38, she was the kind of woman who commanded rooms without raising her voice. Founder and CEO of a startup revolutionizing AI for mental health apps, her name whispered in boardrooms from Silicon Valley to Capitol Hill. Tall, with raven hair that fell in effortless waves when she let it down after hours, and those eyes, God, those eyes, that could pin you in place or melt you with a glance. She was married once, or so the office rumors went, to some venture capitalist who bailed when the company nearly folded 3 years ago. Now, she was untouchable, a fortress in pencil skirts and power heels. Or so I thought. That night, as her Tesla hummed through the slick streets of Capitol Hill, the wipers slicing rhythmically against the downpour, I stared at my hands in my lap, twisting the hem of my soaked blazer. The car smelled like her, jasmine and leather, with a faint undercurrent of black coffee from the Veni she'd nursed through our endless strategy sessions. "You didn't tank it," she said abruptly, breaking the silence that had thickened like fog off the bay. I snorted, a bitter sound that surprised even me. "Tell that to the board. Or to my rent check, which won't care about participation trophies." She glanced over, her profile sharp against the glow of passing street lamps, and something in her expression, vulnerability, amusement, made my stomach flip. "Adeline, look at me." I did, against my better judgment, and her gaze held mine steady, the city lights dancing in her irises like distant stars. "You've got fire in you. I saw it today, even through the nerves. But you're holding back. Why?" The question hung there, heavier than the rain. Why? Because every time I opened my mouth in a meeting, I heard Sarah's voice in my head, mocking my ideas as cute but impractical. Because loving women had always felt like walking a tightrope over a chasm, beautiful until you fell. Because Elena Voss was my boss, a straight-A achievement wrapped in enigma, and the way my pulse raced whenever she leaned close over my shoulder to review code, that was a one-way ticket to HR hell. "I don't know," I whispered, turning back to the window, watching blurred storefronts of indie bookstores and vegan cafes whip by. We were climbing Queen and Hill now, the road twisting upward toward my cramped studio apartment with its view of nothing but the neighbor's brick wall. "Maybe I'm just scared." She pulled into the alley behind my building, the engine's purr fading to a hush as she killed the ignition. Rain drummed on the roof like impatient fingers, and neither of us moved. The air between us crackled, charged with the kind of electricity that precedes lightning. "Scared of what?" she pressed, her voice softer now, almost a murmur. I could feel her warmth radiating across the console, her knee inches from mine. My throat tightened, words I'd buried deep bubbled up unbidden. Of messing up. Of wanting. Things I shouldn't. The confession slipped out, raw and trembling, and I braced for the fallout, the polite deflection, the sudden chill. But Elena didn't pull away. Instead, she reached over, her fingers brushing mine in the dim light, a touch so light it might have been imagination. "Adeline," she said, and the way my name rolled off her tongue, like a secret she'd been keeping, sent heat flooding through me. "What if I told you I've been scared too? For years." Her hand lingered, thumb tracing a slow circle on the back of mine, and in that suspended heartbeat, the world narrowed to the rain, the car, and us. I'd replay that touch 1,000 times in the sleepless nights to come, the spark that ignited everything, the first crack in the walls we'd both built so high. But that night, as she leaned closer, her breath warm against my cheek, she whispered words that would haunt me like a melody I couldn't shake. "Let me show you it's okay to want." And just like that, the storm outside paled against the one raging inside me. The next morning, sunlight pierced the clouds like a reluctant apology, filtering through my thrift store curtains as I bolted upright in bed, heart pounding from a dream that blurred the line between memory and fantasy. Elena's whisper echoed in my skull, her touch of phantom ache on my skin. I glanced at my phone, 7:15 a.m., a slew of unread emails from the team, but nothing from her. No "see you in the office" or "drive safe." Just silence, which clawed at me worse than any rejection. I showered in a rush, the hot water doing little to wash away the flush that crept up my neck every time I remembered her eyes on me, intense and unguarded. By the time I hustled into the Voss Innovations lobby, latte in hand from the corner cart, my nerves were frayed, wires ready to snap. The open-plan floor buzzed with the usual chaos. Developers hunched over laptops in ergonomic pods, marketers scribbling on whiteboards that stretched wall to wall, the hum of printers spitting out prototypes for our latest app, Elysium, a chatbot that promised to unravel the knots of anxiety with algorithms as gentle as a therapist's nod. I slid into my desk by the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Elliott Bay, the ferries cutting white wakes through slate-gray water like stitches in the city's soul. But focus eluded me. Every keystroke conjured her, Elena's stride down the hall, her laugh during lunch runs to Pike Place, where she'd snag fresh salmon rolls and share bites without thinking twice. Was it nothing? Flirtation born of late nights and shared caffeine? Or had last night cracked open something real? By noon, the doubt had festered into a quiet panic. I buried myself in datasets, cross-referencing user retention rates until my eyes burned, but when the elevator dinged and Elena stepped out, everything ground to a halt. She looked impeccable, tailored navy blazer over a silk blouse the color of storm clouds, hair pinned back with a silver clip that caught the light. Our eyes met across the bullpen, and she smiled, not the polished CEO curve, but something softer, private. She crooked a finger, summoning me to her corner office with its view of the Olympics shrouded in mist. "Adeline," she greeted as I shut the door behind me, gesturing to the leather armchair opposite her desk. "Sit. We need to talk about yesterday." My stomach dropped like the Space Needle's elevator in freefall. HR talk. Boundaries. The end of whatever fragile thread I'd spun from one rainy drive. I perched on the edge of the seat, hands clasped to hide their tremble. "I'm sorry if I overstepped," I blurted, the words tumbling out before she could start. "It was a long day and I—" "Stop." Her tone was firm but laced with warmth, like aged whiskey. She rounded the desk, perching on its edge inches from me, her knee brushing mine in an echo of the car. Up close, I could see the faint lines at the corners of her eyes, badges from battles fought in boardrooms and bedrooms alike. "You didn't overstep." "I did." She exhaled, running a hand through her hair, loosening a strand that curled against her cheek. "I've watched you these past months, Adeline. The way you light up when you crack a tough algorithm, how you listen when no one else does. You're brilliant. And last night, God, I meant every word. But I'm your boss. This city, this company, it's a minefield." Her vulnerability hit me like a wave crashing on Alki Beach, fierce, unyielding, pulling me under. "Then why say it?" I whispered, my voice cracking. "Why touch me like that if it's impossible?" She searched my face, her blue eyes stormy. and for a heartbeat, I thought she'd retreat. Instead, she cupped my cheek, her palm cool and steady against my flush. "Because I'm tired of impossible," she murmured. "Because when I look at you, I see the woman who could make me believe in second chances." The kiss came like the rain, sudden, inevitable, pouring everything we'd held back into one searing press of lips. Her mouth was soft, tasting of mint and urgency, her fingers threading into my hair as I leaned in, heart thundering. It was tentative at first, a question, then deepening as I answered with a sigh, my hands finding her waist, bunching the silk of her blouse. The office faded, the hum of keyboards, the distant ring of phones, until it was just us, tangled in the quiet storm of revelation. When we broke apart, breathless, her forehead rested against mine. "This changes everything," she said, a smile ghosting her lips. "Are you ready?" I nodded, even as fear coiled in my belly like fog over the sound. "Ready? Hell no." But in her arms, with Seattle sprawling below us like a canvas of possibility, I wanted to be. The weeks that followed blurred into a secret symphony, each stolen moment a note building toward crescendo. Morning started with her texts, simple things like "coffee run? Black, 2 sugars for you." That made my commute from Queen and to South Lake Union feel like foreplay. We'd meet in the stairwell between floors, her back against the cool concrete wall, my lips claiming hers in hurried kisses that left us both flushed and laughing. "You're dangerous," she'd tease, nipping at my earlobe, her breath hot against my neck. "1 more minute, and I'll drag you to the supply closet." I'd pull back just enough to grin, my fingers tracing the curve of her collarbone. Promises, promises, boss. But beneath the thrill lurked shadows. Elena's ex-husband, Marcus, had resurfaced like a bad sequel, phoning the office under the guise of investor interest, his voice oily through the intercom as I screened calls. Whispers rippled through the team. "Heard he's circling back for a cut of the next funding round." Elena brushed it off in our late-night debriefs at her waterfront loft in Belltown, where we'd collapse onto her king-sized bed overlooking the twinkling lights of ferries crossing to Bainbridge. "He's a ghost," she'd say, drawing me close, her body a warm anchor against the chill seeping through the floor-to-ceiling windows. We'd make love then, slow and exploratory, her hands mapping the freckles across my shoulders like constellations, my lips learning the salt taste of her skin. She was all contrasts, fierce in the boardroom, tender in the dark, her moans a melody that drowned out the city's nocturnal hum. Yet doubt not at me, sharp as the wind off Lake Union during our weekend paddleboard sessions, where she'd balance effortlessly, her laughter carrying over the water as I wobbled and splashed. "You're overthinking again," she'd call, paddling closer to steady me with a hand on my hip. But how could I not? The office was a pressure cooker. One slip, a lingering glance during stand-up, a too familiar brush in the break room, and we'd be exposed. And then there was me, 25, still untangling the knots Sarah had tied, questioning if I deserved this woman who built empires from code and courage. What if I'm not enough? I confessed one evening, curled against her on the couch, a bottle of Pinot Noir half empty on the coffee table, the scent of her jasmine candle mingling with rain-damp air. Elena set her glass down, turning to frame my face in her hands, her thumbs stroking my cheeks. "Adeline, listen to me." Her voice was a vow, steady as the tide. "You've already given me more than enough. You see me, not the CEO, not the survivor, just Elena. That's rarer than any unicorn startup." She kissed me then, deep and reassuring, her body pressing me back into the cushions until worries dissolved in the heat between us. But as she fell asleep beside me, her arms slung possessively over my waist, I stared at the ceiling, the city's pulse echoing my own unease. Love like this was a revolution, but revolutions had casualties. The first crack appeared on a crisp October afternoon, the kind where autumn leaves skittered across Pioneer Square like confetti from a forgotten parade. We just closed a deal with a major VC firm, $15 million to scale Elysium nationwide, and the office erupted in cheers, high fives rippling through the pods like seismic waves. Elena pulled me into her office for a strategy session, locking the door with a click that sent shivers down my spine. "We did it," she whispered, lifting me onto the desk, her hands sliding up my thighs under my skirt. Our celebration was frantic, clothes half unbuttoned, her mouth hot on my neck as I arched into her, gasping her name like a prayer. It was reckless, intoxicating, the power of us, unbreakable. Until the knock shattered it. "Elena? It's Marcus." His voice slithered through the door, smooth as venom. We froze, my heart slamming into overdrive as she straightened, smoothing her blouse with hands that trembled just once. "1 second," she called, her tone all business, while I slipped off the desk, cheeks burning, adjusting my hem. She unlocked the door, and there he was, mid-40s, silver fox handsome in a bespoke suit, his smile a shark's gleam. "Darling," he drawled, eyes flicking past her to me. Curious, appraising. "Heard the good news. Thought I'd congratulate you in person. And meet the team." The air thickened, laced with his cologne, something expensive and cloying, like old money gone sour. Elena's posture stiffened, a shield snapping into place. "Marcus. This is Adeline Harper, one of our lead analysts. Adeline, my associate from the early days." The lie stung, casual as a paper cut, but I forced a smile, extending a hand he shook a beat too long, his grip firm, probing. "Pleasure," he said, eyes lingering. Elena always did surround herself with talent. We chatted surface level, funding projections, market shares, while tension coiled in my gut like a spring. He lingered an hour, dropping hints of reinvesting that made Elena's jaw tighten, her responses clipped. When he finally left, promising drinks soon, the door clicked shut and she sagged against it, face pale. "Are you okay?" I asked, stepping close, but she held up a hand, eyes distant. "He wants back in. The company, us, whatever gives him leverage." Her voice cracked on the last word, and something in me fractured too. "Us? As in?" She met my gaze, haunted. "It's over, Adeline. But he doesn't let go easy." That night, alone in my apartment, the rain returned with a vengeance, mirroring the flood inside me. Marcus wasn't just an ex. He was a specter, dredging up the parts of Elena she'd buried, the woman who'd signed prenups and board seats to keep the dream alive, sacrificing pieces of herself along the way. And me? I was the wild card, the variable that could topple it all. As November's chill seeped into the city, frosting the evergreens along I-5, our rhythm faltered. Elena threw herself into work, late nights blurring into dawn strategy calls with East Coast partners, her texts growing sparse. Stuck in meetings. "Miss you." I'd pace my studio, the walls closing in, replaying Marcus's smirk, the way Elena had called him, associate like I was a footnote. Jealousy wasn't the word. It was deeper, a fear that I was loving a ghost, piecing together fragments of a woman still chained to her past. We met when we could, hurried lunches at the market, where she'd steal olives from my salad and feed them to me with a wink, stolen weekends hiking Discovery Park, her hand in mine as we crested bluffs overlooking the Strait of Juan de Fuca, the wind whipping our laughter into the salt air. "You're my anchor," she'd murmur, pulling me down onto the damp grass, her kisses tasting of sea and freedom. In those moments, doubt receded like the tide. But Marcus escalated, his shadow lengthening. Invites to alumni events for Voss backers, each laced with subtext. Dinners at Canlis with skyline views, where he'd corner Elena about old times, his hand brushing her arm in photos that surfaced on LinkedIn, fueling office gossip. "Who's the suit with the boss?" a junior dev whispered in the break room, and I choked on my almond milk latte, forcing nonchalance. "Old investor, I think." Inside, it burned. One evening, after a particularly grueling pitch where Marcus dropped by unannounced, Elena showed up at my door at midnight, rain-soaked and unraveling. He knows, she said, collapsing into my arms, her body shaking. About us. Saw a text on my phone during dinner. Threatened to go to the board. Conflict of interest, power imbalance, the works. The words landed like blows, each one bruising. I held her tighter, guiding us to the couch, wrapping her in a blanket that smelled of my lavender detergent. What does he want? I asked, stroking her hair as sobs racked her frame. Raw, unfiltered, the CEO facade crumbling. Everything, she whispered. Control. To punish me for leaving. For building this without him. Rage simmered in my veins, hot and unfamiliar. Then fight him. We're worth it. She lifted her head, eyes red-rimmed but fierce, and kissed me. Desperate, claiming, her nails digging into my back as we tumbled to the floor, clothes shedding like old skin. It was cathartic, our bodies a battlefield where we reclaimed power, her gasps mingling with mine until exhaustion claimed us, tangled on the rug by the flickering TV casting shadows of a forgotten rom-com. Dawn brought resolve. Over breakfast, pancakes from the batter I'd whipped up at 3 a.m., syrup sticky on our fingers, Elena outlined a plan. We go public. On our terms. Tell the board first, frame it as a strength, diversity, authenticity. Her voice steadied with each word, the strategist emerging. But fear lingered in her eyes, mirrored in mine. Coming out in corporate America wasn't a rainbow parade. It was navigating minefields, especially when your lover signed your paychecks. Still, as we walked hand in hand to the office that gray morning, the space needle piercing the clouds like a beacon, I felt a spark of defiance. This was our story, not his to rewrite. The board meeting was scheduled for the following Tuesday, in the executive suite with its mahogany table and Puget Sound vista, where deals were sealed over single malt and small talk. Elena prepped like a general. Binders of precedents, queer CEOs thriving at Fortune 500s, stats on inclusive cultures boosting retention 30%. I contributed quietly, running simulations on potential fallout, my data whispering assurances even as my gut churned. What if they side with him? I asked one night, as we lay in her loft, the city's holiday lights twinkling prematurely on the balcony. She traced patterns on my stomach, her touch grounding. Then we burn it down and build anew. Together. But Marcus struck first. Monday morning, an email blast hit inboxes company-wide. Exciting news from Voss Innovations alum. Marcus Hale joins advisory board. It was innocuous on the surface. Praise for the funding round, vague nods to strategic guidance, but the subtext screamed sabotage. Phones buzzed, Slack channels lit up with emojis masking unease. By lunch, HR called Elena in, citing external pressures for review. I watched from my desk, fists clenched under the table, as she emerged stone-faced, her stride unbroken but her eyes thunderous. That afternoon, she pulled me into the stairwell, our sanctuary, and pressed me against the wall, her kiss fierce, possessive. He's bluffing, she growled against my lips. But we accelerate. Meetings now. We burst into the boardroom unannounced, the suits mid-conversation over catered sandwiches, surprise rippling like a stone in still water. Elena took the head, I at her side, our chairs inches apart, a silent statement. Ladies and gentlemen, she began, voice like forged steel, before we discuss Mr. Hale's overtures, there's something you need to know about Voss Innovations' future. She nodded to me. I launched the slides, heart in my throat, narrating our vision. Not just code and cash, but lives changed. Elysium's beta users, queer youth finding solace in AI that understood their hidden hurts. The room hung on her words as she wove in us, casually, powerfully. Adeline and I are together. It's made us stronger, sharper. If that's a problem, the door's open. Silence stretched, taut as a wire. Then the chairwoman, a silver-haired powerhouse from Microsoft days, leaned forward. About time someone shook this place up. Welcome aboard, officially. Relief crashed over us like a breaker, applause following, tentative then genuine. Marcus's email? Dismissed as sour grapes in the afterglow. But victory tasted bittersweet. That evening, as snow flurries dusted the market stalls, our first white Seattle winter, Marcus cornered us outside the office, his coat dusted with flakes, face twisted in the street lamp's glow. "You think this ends it?" he snarled, eyes darting between us. "I'll bury you both." Elena stepped forward, chin high, her hand finding mine. "Try it. We're done hiding." He lunged, verbal venom first, a shove second, but security materialized, badges flashing, escorting him into the night. I trembled in her arms after, adrenaline ebbing into sobs on the sidewalk. "It's over," she soothed, hailing a cab, her lips brushing my temple. "We won." Or so we thought. The real storm hit at dawn. The cab ride to her loft was a blur of heated skin and whispered vows, our hands entwined on the leather seat as the driver navigated slushy streets lined with twinkling evergreens strung for the holidays. Inside, we shed coats and inhibitions by the door, her mouth on mine urgent, tasting of relief and red wine from the boardroom toast. "We did it," I gasped as she backed me toward the bedroom, her fingers deft on my buttons, exposing skin to the firelight flickering from the hearth. She was everywhere, lips trailing fire down my neck, hands cupping my breasts with a reverence that made me arch, breath hitching. "You're mine," she murmured against my thigh, voice husky, as I tangled in sheets scented of us, her tongue coaxing waves of pleasure that built and broke like the sound's relentless surf. We moved as one, bodies sinking in a rhythm honed by months of longing, her cries mingling with mine until climax left us shattered, clinging in the afterglow. Sleep came fitful, haunted by Marcus's glare, but Elena's arm around my waist anchored me, her steady breaths a lullaby. Morning brought headlines. Voss Innovation secures $15 million, embraces inclusive leadership. Our story, sanitized, triumphant, splashed across TechCrunch and local feeds, queer outlets hailing it as a beacon for corporate closets cracked open. The office transformed overnight. Rainbow stickers bloomed on laptops, colleagues offering shy nods or bold hugs. "Knew you two had chemistry," my dev buddy quipped over virtual coffee, and I laughed, lighter than in years. Yet euphoria cracked under scrutiny. Reporters called, probing for the human angle. Elena's divorce dissected in pixels, my meteoric rise spun as nepotism. Marcus went quiet, but his silence screamed strategy. Private messages trickled in, anonymized tips to Elena's inbox. "She's using you to climb. Watch your back." Doubt, that insidious weed, sprouted anew. Was I the climber or just collateral? Nights, as we cooked pasta in her kitchen, her chopping garlic with surgical precision, me stirring sauce with less grace, she'd catch my distant stare. "Talk to me," she'd say, pulling me onto the counter, her kiss a balm. "This is real, Adeline. We're real." Christmas approached, Seattle blanketed in rare snow, transforming the city into a postcard of frosted spires and bundled pedestrians hustling to holiday markets. Elena surprised me with a weekend getaway to the San Juans, ferry to Friday Harbor, where we'd hole up in a cliffside cabin overlooking the Salish Sea. No signals, no suits. The crossing was magic, dolphins arcing in our wake, her head on my shoulder as we sipped cocoa from thermoses, the world reduced to water and wind. The cabin was rustic heaven, wood beams, a stone fireplace, a deck where we'd watch bald eagles soar at dusk. "No past, no future," she declared that first night, drawing me into the hot tub under stars sharp as diamonds, steam rising like our size. We soaked, her legs wrapped around mine, conversations drifting from dreams, hers, global Elysium rollout, mine, writing code that healed, to scars, her. Marcus's gaslighting, whittling her confidence to splinters, mine. Sarah's possessiveness, teaching me love was a cage. One evening, as snow dusted the pines outside, we bundled in flannel and roasted marshmallows over the fire, her stories unfolding like gifts. "I knew I liked girls in high school," she confessed, flames dancing in her eyes. Summer camp in the Cascades, stole kisses with my cabin mate behind the boathouse. But college, law school, I buried it for the game. Marcus was safe, strategic. Regret shadowed her face, and I kissed it away, soft on her brow. And now I'm free. Because of you. We made love on the rug, slow and sacred, her body a landscape I explored with lips and fingers, the dip of her waist, the curve of her hip, the pulse fluttering at her throat. She reciprocated with a tenderness that unraveled me, her whispers, beautiful, so beautiful, echoing long after. But paradise fractured on the return ferry, signals reconnecting like veins pulsing bad blood. Elena's phone buzzed relentlessly. Board alerts, funding wires, then a voicemail from Marcus's lawyer. Cease and desist on the announcement. Defamation claims pending. Her face drained of color, the joy from our idol evaporating like mist. He's suing, she said flatly, as we docked in Anacortes, the holiday cheer of carols clashing with the ice in her voice. For breach of our settlement, says publicizing the divorce harms his rep. I gripped her hand, knuckles white. Fight it. We have proof, emails, witnesses. Back in Seattle, the holidays lost luster. Trees twinkled in Pioneer Square, but our loft felt besieged, stacks of legal briefs overtaking the dining table. Elena armored up, consulting with attorneys over Zoom, her smiles for the team forced masks. I supported from the shadows, poring over contracts by lamplight, but resentment simmered unspoken. Why now? Why couldn't he let go? New Year's Eve loomed, a countdown to what? Closure or catastrophe? We rang it in quietly, champagne flutes clinking on the balcony, fireworks blooming over the sound like defiant stars. To us, she toasted, pulling me close, her kiss tasting of hope laced with salt. But as midnight tolled, a text from an unknown number. She's playing you. Ask about the cabin girl. Attached, a grainy photo from our getaway, me laughing on the deck, time-stamped. Paranoia bloomed. Who? Marcus's spy? I confronted her gently that night, curled in bed, the city hushed below. The photo, how? She sighed, burying her face in my neck. He has connections. Old board members, maybe. But it changes nothing. Did it? Doubt whispered, feeding on old wounds. The next weeks dragged, lawsuits grinding forward, depositions scheduled. Elena grew distant, buried in prep, our touches fleeting, a brush in the kitchen, a goodnight kiss that lingered too brief. I threw myself into work, pitching Elysium expansions to distract, but loneliness echoed in my apartment during overnights, the bed cold without her. February's gray rains mirrored my mood. Valentine's a farce of chocolates and cards from colleagues, Elena absent at a deposition downtown. She returned late, hollow-eyed, collapsing beside me with takeout tie gone cold. He's dragging up everything, she murmured, head in my lap as I stroked her hair. The divorce, the company near collapse, painting me as unstable, unfit. Fury ignited in me, hot and clarifying. Then let's end it. Go public bigger, press conference, op-ed, show the world who you are. Her eyes met mine, spark reigniting. The presser was set for a soggy Thursday at the office, reporters crammed into the lobby under umbrellas dripping on marble floors. Elena stood at the podium, poised in emerald green, her power color, flanked by me, hand on her lower back unseen but steadying. Voss Innovations isn't just building apps, she declared, voice resonant. We're building lives. And mine, ours, has been reshaped by love, by Adeline. Cameras flashed, questions flew, on the suit, on queer leadership, on resilience. Marcus's name surfaced. She dismantled it with facts, her gaze never wavering. Attempts to silence us only amplify our truth. The fallout was swift, media frenzy, supportive op-eds in The Stranger, even a shout-out from GLAAD. Marcus's case crumbled under scrutiny, his claims exposed as pettiness in court filings leaked overnight. By March, as cherry blossoms tentatively budded along the waterfront, he settled out of court, a gag order his muzzle. Spring unfurled, tentative and triumphant. We celebrated with a road trip to Olympic National Park, hiking Hurricane Ridge, where snow-capped peaks met endless sky. At the summit, wind whipping our scarves, Elena dropped to one knee, not with a ring, but a promise, a simple silver band etched with echoes. "Marry me?" she asked, eyes shimmering. Tears blurred my yes, our embrace fierce against the gale. Life normalized, richer for the scars. Elysium launched nationally, user stories pouring in, women like us, finding voice in code. We married that summer on a Bainbridge beach, toes in sand, vows exchanged under a driftwood arch, friends toasting with local cider. No grand fanfare, just us, raw, real, unbreakable. And on quiet nights, when rain patters the loft windows, her words from that first drive echo still. "Let me show you it's okay to want." She has every day, teaching me love isn't a storm to weather, but a sea to sail, together. Yet even in the afterglow of our beachside vows, with salt-kissed skin and the crash of waves serenading our first dance to a playlist of indie folk, Phoebe Bridgers crooning about ghosts we'd both outrun, the undercurrent of what we'd survived lingered like tide pools trapping secrets. Seattle's summer hummed around us, alive with fairy horns and street musicians on the Ave, but Marcus's shadow, though banished to legal footnotes, had etched caution into our bones. Elena noticed it first, during a lazy Sunday brunch at Le Panier, where pain au chocolate flaked onto our plates as we people-watched couples strolling past the original Starbucks. "You're scanning the crowd," she said softly, her foot nudging mine under the table, a grounding ritual. I forced a smile, dipping a croissant in coffee. Old habits. A force of nature, I guess. She understood. We'd both been shaped by forces that bent but didn't break. Back home, we dove into newlywed rhythms, her teaching me to sail on Lake Union, my novice hands fumbling the tiller while she laughed, wind-tousled and radiant in board shorts, barking gentle corrections. "Ease up, love, trust the wind." Evenings were ours. Cooking experiments gone gloriously wrong, her risotto scorching while we got distracted mid-kiss, movie marathons on the couch with takeout from Babar, her head in my lap as we dissected plots of Sapphic classics like Carol. Intimacy deepened, no longer frantic but exploratory. Lazy mornings where I'd wake to her fingers tracing lazy eights on my hip, pulling me back into her warmth, our love making a slow burn that left us sated and silly, giggling over inside jokes. Work wove us tighter. With the board's blessing, I rose to co-lead on Elysium's queer outreach arm, tailoring modules for LGBTQ+ users, features that recognized pronoun fluidity, flagged conversion therapy red flags, connected to crisis lines with one tap. Elena beamed at my pitches, her pride a quiet fire that fueled late nights debugging code together. Our desks pushed side by side in her office, takeout containers piling up like trophies. "You're revolutionizing this," she'd say, kissing my temple, and I'd blush, the girl from Portland who'd once dreamed small now scripting futures. But autumn brought whispers of unrest. Funding rounds loomed, investors circling like gulls over fresh catch, and rumors swirled of a buyout from a big tech behemoth, Google's Shadow, or Amazon's, hungry for our user data. Elena confided over wine on the balcony one crisp evening, "The city lights a mosaic below. It could triple our reach, but at what cost? Soul-selling." Her brow furrowed, the weight of decisions pressing lines there I'd kiss away later. I squeezed her hand. "We hold the line. Authenticity's our edge." She nodded, but sleep evaded her that night, her tosses pulling me awake, spooning her until dawn's light filtered through blinds. The pivot came in November, as election season tension crackled nationwide. Headlines of riots rolled back in red states, protests marching from Capitol Hill to the steps of City Hall. Elysium's usage spiked, desperate queries flooding servers. How do I come out safely? Is this normal? Elena and I volunteered at a local center, manning hotlines where voices trembled over lines, sharing stories that mirrored our own jagged paths. One call stuck, a teen from Tacoma, 17 and terrified after her parents found her journal. "I feel so alone," she whispered, and Elena's voice, steady as ever, wove hope. "You're not. There's a whole ocean of us waiting." Hanging up, tears streaked her cheeks. I held her in the empty office, our foreheads touching. "We're doing good," I murmured. "Real good." Yet the buyout pressure mounted, culminating in a tense dinner with venture suits at the Metropolitan Grill, steaks sizzling, red wine flowing, their pitches slick as oiled sails. "Scale or stale?" One VP droned, eyes on Elena like she was the prize fish. She countered gracefully, but I saw the strain, her free hand finding mine under the table, squeezing. Driving home through drizzle-glazed streets, she exhaled sharply. "They're right. We need capital to fight the fights coming." I turned from the passenger seat, rain-blurring taillights. "Then partner, don't sell. Find allies who share the vision." Her glance held gratitude, sparking an idea. A crowdfund, community-backed, turning users into stakeholders. We launched it the next week. Own Your Echo, a Kickstarter meets equity share, pitching directly to those Elysium had touched. The response was electric. Pledges from queer creators in Brooklyn, therapists in LA, even a drag queen collective in New Orleans wiring thousands with notes like, "For the girls who come after." By holiday lights twinkled anew, we'd surpassed goals, the board toasting our maverick move in the conference room with spiked eggnog. Marcus? A footnote in tabloids, his failed suit fodder for podcasts mocking has-been moguls. Winter solstice found us at a cabin in the Methow Valley, snow-deep and silent, cross-country skis tracing virgin trails where elk prints dotted powder. Evenings by the fire, we'd read aloud, poetry from Audre Lorde, her voice wrapping around lines like, "We were never meant to survive," turning them into anthems. Lovemaking was wildfire, her pinning me to the bearskin rug, eyes locked as she moved inside me with a strap we'd bought giggling in a Capitol Hill shop, pleasure coiling tight until release shattered us in tandem cries. "I love you," she gasped after, tracing my collarbone with reverent fingers. More than code, more than coastlines. Spring 2026 bloomed with expansion, Elysium pods and clinics from Miami to Missoula, our story inspiring panels at South by Southwest where Elena keynote, me moderating Q&A, our joined hands under the table a quiet rebellion. Challenges arose, a data breach scare, quashed by my frantic all-nighters, pushback from conservative funders, met with Elena's unyielding ethics. Through it, our bond tempered, flexible as Hoh rainforest vines. One July Eve, as we picnicked on Golden Gardens Beach, sunset gilding the Olympics, Elena turned to me, sand between our toes. "Kids?" she asked, casual as asking for sunscreen. My heart stuttered. Visions of tiny hands in ours, story times blending tech tales with fairy godmothers. "Yeah," I breathed. "Ours." We pursued it that fall, IVF consultations, donor searches, the bureaucracy a gauntlet, but our laughter the shield. When the test blinked positive months later, 2 pink lines under bathroom light, we wept on the tile, joy raw and radiant. Parenthood reshaped us. Midnight feedings in the loft nursery, Elena rocking our daughter, Aurora, for the lights that guided us home, while I brewed coffee strong enough to wake the dead. Sleepless but soulful, we trade shifts at work, Elysium's lullabies now tested on real cries. Marcus faded to irrelevance, his life a string of failed ventures chronicled in footnotes. Years folded like waves, Aurora's first steps on the waterfront, toddler giggles echoing our vows renewed annually on that Bainbridge shore. Elena's TED Talk went viral, echoes of the heart, loving boldly in a binary world, me in the front row, tears blurring her grace on stage. We mentored, young queer coders in turning, their eyes wide with possibility we'd once chased. At 30, reflecting on that rainy drive a decade past, I know now, love isn't echo alone, but the song it births. Elena's words still resonate, a heartbeat in our home's hum, proof that from one vulnerable night, empires of the heart endure. Decade markers came softly, like Seattle's fog rolling in unannounced, but they hit hard in the quiet hours. Aurora at 5, all wild curls and questions. Mama L, why's the app whisper secrets? Prompted family coding nights, her chubby fingers tapping keyboards as we debugged mini-games teaching empathy algorithms. Elena, ever the visionary, adapted Elysium for Kids, modules on feelings friends that had preschools clamoring. I'd watch them, my wives in spirit if not law, Elena braiding Rory's hair with patient twists, their laughter a duet that mended any frayed edge from boardroom battles. Yet expansion bred tempests. By 2028, Voss innovations spanned coasts, offices in Austin's queer-friendly vibe, Brooklyn's creative churn, but growth invited wolves. A rival startup, backed by Marcus's shadowy network, launched Harmony AI, a knockoff poaching our features with aggressive ads. Elysium's heart? We have the head. Lawsuits flew, IP claims stacking like storm clouds, Elena's days devoured by depositions that left her hollow, collapsing into bed with takeout untouched. It's war, she'd mutter, scrolling threat emails at 2 a.m. while I rubbed her shoulders, knots unyielding as her resolve. I stepped up, pitching defenses to allies, queer VCs who'd crowdfunded us, now angels in tailored suits. One rainy night in our expanded Belltown townhouse, Aurora asleep upstairs with her glow-in-dark stars, Elena and I mapped strategy on the kitchen island, wine glasses sweating rings on coasters. We go grassroots again, I proposed, tracing lines on a napkin. User testimonials, open source a core module, show we're the soul, not the suit. Her eyes lit, that spark from our stairwell days. Brilliant. Like you. The kiss that followed spilled wine, led to the counter, her hands urgent, reclaiming control in gasps and grips, our bodies a reminder. We fought best entwined. The counteroffensive worked. Our open source drop trended on GitHub, devs flocking, Harmony exposed as shallow code when a whistleblower leaked their scraped data. Marcus's fingerprints surfaced in filings, his advisory role a Trojan horse. A class action buried him deeper, his empire crumbling to blog rants from a waterfront condo gone to seed. Victory tasted like the dim sum we celebrated with, steamy buns from Wajimaya, Rory dipping everything in chili oil, oblivious to the stakes. Parenting wove deeper threads. Aurora's school years brought playground politics, bullies mocking her two-mom setup, her drawings of family trees with extra branches. We'd console with ice cream walks along the locks, salmon leaping as metaphors for persistence. Elena, the protector, volunteered as PDA tech whiz, her talks on digital kindness quelling storms. I handled the emotional, bedtime stories of two queens building castles, drawing from our saga. Therapy became ritual, family sessions unpacking inherited fears, my control ghosts from Sarah, Elena's abandonment echoes from Marcus. You're safe, the counselor affirmed, and in those circles, hands linked, we believed it. Milestones mounted. Rory's 8th birthday at the zoo. Otters playing tag as she blew candles on a cake frosted with code brackets. Elena's book deal. Whispers in the Wire. A memoir blending our love with AI ethics. Bestseller lists glowing on our fridge. I contributed chapters, my voice threading hers. The drive that started it all. Tours pulled Elena away, spotlights in San Francisco halls, but FaceTimes bridged gaps, her hotel bed whispers sustaining until reunions exploded in hotel sheets, passionate and pent-up. Challenges evolved. Aurora's tween angst at 12, crushes on classmates blurring lines. Is it weird if I like her and him? Prompting kitchen table talks on fluidity, Elena's calm analogies to app updates, mine to ocean tides. We navigated with grace, her coming out at school, a pride we amplified with ally workshops. Work-wise, a 2030 recession nipped, layoffs loomed, Elena agonizing over cuts, her empathy clashing with fiscal knives. Not the heart team, she vowed, and we restructured Lean, pivoting to VR therapy realms where users walked digital forests, unpacking traumas virtually. By 2032, Aurora, at 14, lanky and laptop-bound, coding her own chatbots, our family was an ecosystem, rooted, resilient. A scare hit that summer. Elena's routine skin flagging a shadow on her lung, biopsy days a blur of waiting rooms and white-knuckled holds. Benign, the verdict, scar tissue from a long-ago flu, but it reframed us. Checkups now calendar staples, gratitude rituals, sunset sails where we'd name 3 graces, Rory rolling eyes but joining. The echo of that first night persisted, evolving. On our 15th anniversary, back on Bainbridge, driftwood arch rebuilt by tides, we renewed under Aurora Borealis, rare southern lights dancing green veils. Rory, now taller than me, officiated with teen solemnity, her vows for us. You taught me love's a launch code. Input heart, output forever. Tears flowed, waves lapping approval. Into 2035, with Aurora college-bound for UW, data sci, naturally, our nest half empty, Elena and I rediscovered duo dates. Jazz at Demetrios, her hand in mine swaying to sax solos, hikes in the Olympics, wildflowers nodding as we paused for kisses tasting of trail mix. Elysium morphed to EchoNet, a global mesh linking minds across borders, queer voices amplified from Tehran to Toronto. Marcus's end came quietly, a obit in the Times, heart attack at 58 alone. No gloating, Elena left flowers anonymously at his grave, closure's quiet nod. Forgiveness frees the forgiver, she said, and I believed her, the woman who'd driven me home and home to myself. Now, at 40, with silver threading my auburn, Elena's raven gone snowy at temples, we sit on the balcony, Aurora's holograms flickering from her dorm feed, her latest app demo, pride beaming. The city sprawls, eternal rain a gentle patter. Her hand finds mine, thumb circling that etched band. Still echoes, she asks, voice husky with years. I lean in, lips brushing hers. Louder every day. And in that touch, the story loops, hook to heart, storm to shore, a lesbian love that outlasts algorithms, echoing eternal. The year's post-story's launch into freshman seminars at UW felt like exhaling after a decade-held breath, space to breathe, to be us again without the orbit of school runs and science fair volcanoes. Elena and I slipped into a renaissance, weekend escapes to wine country in Walla Walla, where we'd pedal through vineyards heavy with Syrah, pausing for picnics under arbors, her laughter bubbling as I fed her grapes, juice staining lips I'd kiss clean. Nights in boutique inns, clawfoot tubs steaming, her body familiar yet ever new, curves softened by time, but touches igniting same as that stairwell spark, slow explorations yielding gasps that echoed off beamed ceilings. EchoNet thrived, its tendrils weaving global, partnerships with NGOs in Nairobi, where apps bridged cultural silences on identity, collaborations with Tokyo devs crafting haiku-infused mood trackers. Elena keynote at Davos, her poise undimmed, but she'd return jet-lagged, collapsing into my arms with tales of power plays and quiet wins. Missed your data dives, she'd murmur, and we'd debrief over foe from the corner spot, my spreadsheets dissecting trends while her intuition steered. I climbed too, VP of Innovation, my name on patents, but fulfillment bloomed in mentorships, guiding queer interns through imposter syndromes I'd once worn like a second skin. Rory's world expanded ours. Her girlfriend, Kai, a non-binary artist from Seattle U, with tattoos like living murals and a wit sharp as Elena's. Family dinners became quadruples, Kai's vegan twists on Elena's lasagna, debates on AI art ethics flaring passionate. We embraced holidays, now potlucks blending traditions, my Portland-rooted solstice cookies, Elena's German stollen, Rory's fusion experiments. Challenges arose, Rory's major switch to digital humanities, Elena's initial fret over stability, my mediation smoothing to support. Follow the echo, I advised, echoing her long-ago words. A curveball struck in 2038. Elena's sabbatical offer from a fellowship at Stanford, 6 months in Cali's sun shaping AI policy. Come, she asked over breakfast tacos on our deck, Aurora home for break, sketching Kai's portrait. Tempting, palm trees over pines, but my roots ran deep, echo nets held needing steady hands. Go conquer, I said, kissing her fierce. I'll hold the fort. The separation tested, video calls cutting through time zones, her voice tinny but tender. Bed's too big without you. Visits bridged, me flying down for weekends in Palo Alto cafes, her surprising me at a conference in San Diego, whisking to La Jolla Coves where seals barked approval as we made love in a rented convertible under stars, ocean roared drowning moans. She returned transformed, tanned, texts buzzing with policy wins, but eyes shadowed by Beltway burnout. DC whispers, she confided one stormy night, thunder rumbling like old ghosts. Regressions brewing, funding cuts to inclusive tech. We rallied, lobbying trips to Olympia, our testimonies tag-teaming senators, Elena's charisma, my metrics. Victories stacked small, bills passing for queer ed-tech grants, but each felt seismic. Personal tides turned too. At 45, I chased a dream deferred, creative writing MFA nights at Hugo House, penning our story anonymized as fiction, rain-driven hearts. Elena devoured drafts, her feedback gold. More heat in the car scene, make it pulse. Publication landed with a queer press, readings at Elliott Bay Books packed, her front row pride my muse. Rory illustrated the cover, stylized Tesla in rain, 2 silhouettes entwined, a heirloom. Health scares revisited, my thyroid glitch in 2040, fatigue fogging focus, Elena's vigilance dragging me to endos, her hand in mine during scans. We're in this, she vowed, juicing kale smoothies I pretended to love. Recovery brought clarity, scaling back to consult, freeing time for us. Pottery classes in Fremont, our lopsided bowls holding wildflowers from green lake runs. Rory's engagement to Kai in 2042, a backyard affair under string lights, vows exchanged with custom rings etched in binary love codes, mirrored ours, full circle. We walked her down the aisle, tradition be damned, tears flowing as they danced to our wedding song, a remix of Lord. Grandparenting beckoned soon after. Little Jordan, Kai's surname hyphenated, arriving squalling in a birthing center overlooking the sound, Elena's first hold trembling, my heart swelling at her awe. EchoNet evolved to neural links by 2045, gentle interfaces easing isolation, beta-tested in elder homes where grandmas confided digital crushes. Elena semi-retired, board chairwoman emerita, her days volunteering at youth centers, me guest lecturing on narrative and code. Travels beckoned, Morocco's riads, where we haggled in souks, her Arabic phrases charming vendors, New Zealand fjords, kayaking with penguins, her whoops echoing mine. Reflections deepened with age. At 50, silver fully claimed, we hiked the PCT's northern stretch, backpacks light, her pace sinking mine despite creaky knees. Campfire talks revisited origins, that drive, her words a lodestar. You saved me, she'd say, zippered in sleeping bags. No, we saved each other. Lovemaking adapted, gentler, but no less electric, her fingers knowing paths, climaxes shared in sighs that outspoke youth's frenzy. Marcus's legacy? Erased but instructive, his obit long buried. We donated proceeds from Elena's book to anti-gaslighting nonprofits. Rory's family grew, Jordan's sibling, a firecracker toddler, and our home pulsed with chaos, crayon walls, lullabies in code. On our 25th, that Bainbridge beach again, waves wiser, we scattered petals for lost loves, Sarah's shadow, Marcus's malice, then danced barefoot, Aurora's holograph toasting from afar. Echoes eternal, Elena whispered, pulling me close. And as sunset bled gold, her words from that night resounded, heart's unwavering beat. Love, driven home, forever. Half-centuries crept in slyly, Seattle's skyline evolving with drone ports and green spires, but our core held, two women, woven tighter than the ferry's cables crossing the Sound. Elena at 63, me 55, we traded boardrooms for boardwalks, her hand arthritic but insistent in mine during alky strolls, where we'd pause for gelato, debating flavors like old algorithms, pistachio's edge over stracciatella's cream. Econet's legacy endured, spun off to a co-op model, profits fueling scholarships for queer coders worldwide, Rory helming the board, Jordan apprenticing with wide-eyed hacks. Grandparenting gilded days, Jordan at 8, a whirlwind of questions. Nana Addy, code a dragon? Prompting basement labs where Elena narrated ethics tales, her voice gravelly but golden. Little sibling, Riley, toddled in, Kai and Rory's blended chaos a joyful echo of our early storms. Family reunions ballooned, Thanksgivings at the townhouse, tables groaning under tofurkey and Elena Sauerbrunn, toasts clinking to echoes carried forward. Health's frailties nipped, Elena's hip replacement in 2052, me wheeling her post-op through hospital gardens, her grumbles melting to gratitude kisses. You're my mobility, she'd quip, rehabbing with yoga on the deck, me spotting downward dogs. My vision waned, glasses thickening, but audiobooks bridged, narrating my sequel, Hearts in the Cloud, her critiques sharper than ever. Travel-tempered time, Iceland's geysers, where geothermal steam mirrored our steamier youth, hot springs soaks leading to submerged caresses, her laughter bubbling as we splashed like teens. Japan's cherry blossoms, hanami picnics under sakura storms, petals sticking to our hair as we whispered haiku of enduring bloom. Reflective Projects bloomed, a podcast driven home, interviewing queer couples on pivotal rides, Elena's debut episode Our Origin, voices overlapping in raw reminisce, listeners flooding with Me Too tales. Rory produced, Jordan sound editing, generational threads. Challenges lingered soft, climate shifts bringing fiercer rains, Econet adapting flood relief bots, political winds gusting regressive, our op-eds in the Seattle Times rallying resistance. Elena's activism reignited, marches with canes, her signs witty. Old queer, still here. Anniversaries anchored, 30th a cruise up the Inside Passage, glaciers calving like applause, cabin nights with champagne toasts and tender touches, her body a map-eyed chart blind. Rory's kids performed skits of our story, Jordan as rainy driver, Riley giggling props. A quiet scare in 2058, Elena's atrial fib, pacemaker install a blip, but it sharpened sunsets, daily gratitudes jotted in a shared journal, entries from your coffee pour to world unchanged by our love. Rory's milestone, dean at UW's tech school, prompted a gala us in the audience, her speech nodding us, from OneDrive to driving change. Tears flowed, after-party dances slow and swaying. Into 2060s, with great-grand whispers on horizon, we wintered in a Palm Springs casita, sun-thawing joints, poolside reeds swapping, her sci-fi, my romances. Evenings, stars pricked desert sky, her head on my shoulder, still echoes. Always, louder, the drive's whisper now a roar. Legacy crystallized. Econet archives donated to the Smithsonian, our artifacts, that first note, Tesla key fob beside Turing's notes. Elena knighted honorary by queer orgs, me her consort in ceremonies. On 40th, Bainbridge eternal, waves wiser, Rory's holograms kinful, we vowed anew. Driven, home, heart. Sunset sealed, her words eternal echo. Want's okay, it's everything. Centenarian horizons dawned gradual, Seattle a verdant metropolis of arcologies and aerial trams, but our perch in the townhouse, remodeled with ramps and smart assists, remained haven. Elena at 78, me 70. Mobility aids our chariots, but spirit soared. VR jaunts to virtual Paris, her avatar twirling me Eiffelside, kisses sinking haptic suits. Econet's great-grandchild, Nexus Hearts, pulsed in neural implants, fostering global empaths, Rory's vision, Jordan coding cores. Great-grand Jordan Jr., a sprite of 5, visited with drones delivering hugs, his Nana stories, demands met by Elena's tales, voice quaver but vivid, and the rain said, drive on. Riley's twins, chaos quadrupled, filled Sundays with holiday marathons, our laps thrones. Health's dance slowed, Elena's dementia flickers, names slipping like fog, but music anchored. Our playlist on loop, her swaying to Take Me Home, by Jess Glynn, eyes clearing in recognition. I'd prompt gently, remember the car? Smiles bloomed, your heart echoing. My memoirs, echoes amplified, ghosted by Rory, chronicled fully, drive to dynasty, sales funding kin trusts. Readings virtual, fans from our podcast era tuning in, comments a chorus. You paved my path. Travels tamed to Holos. Amazon canopies, her wonder at bioluminescent vines. Sahara dunes, camels digitized, her hand gripping, mine in sim gloves. Anniversaries intimate, 45th, bedside picnic with catered miniatures, Aurora's recorded poem playing, tears tracing wrinkles. Vows whispered, still driving. Rory's retirement gala, us remote, Kane's propped, her bow to camera. To the originals. Cheers echoed screens. Challenges crested gentle. Elena's full-time care wing, me advocating, our love's logistics a final code to crack. Visitors rotated, Kai's art shows, Jordan's tech expos, life's weave unbroken. In 2075, Elena's fade quickened, hospital bed by window overlooking sound, fairies her metronome. I held vigil, reading our book aloud, her fingers twitching to rhythms. Adeline, she murmured lucid once, eyes locking. That night. Worth every echo. Kiss lingered, breath slowing. She slipped at dawn, rain pattering like applause, me cradling till med drones arrived. Grief tsunami, funeral on Bainbridge, beach-packed kin, eulogies weaving our thread, drive, words, heart. Widowhood hollowed, but echoes filled. Elena's foundation thriving, my daily sound walks, her band on chain around neck. Rory support steel, she drives you still. Years blurred, me 80s, great-greats clambering, stories oral lore. Memoir sequel, echoes eternal, close the loop. On what'd be our 50th, beach solo, waves lapping, I whisper to wind. Your words echo love. In every heart. Sunset gold, fairy horn farewell. Home, driven forever. The final chapters wrote themselves in whispers of wind and water. My days a tapestry of memory and motion. Seattle's arcologies, now sentient spires murmuring to the clouds. At 85, frailty my companion, but Elena's echo my engine. Nexus Hearts implants letting me visit her sim-self, programmed from our archives, her digital laugh a balm on lonely eves. Miss you, I'd say to the hollow, her pixels replying scripted sweet. Drive safe, heart. Rory, gray-streaked visionary, helmed the empire. Jordan Jr. innovating neural symphonies. Riley's line artists in code. Gatherings holographic feasts. Thanksgivings with avatars toasting across continents. Elena's recipes projected, my quips drawing digital chuckles. Health's endgame gentle. Mobility pod zipping me to parks, where I'd feed digital ducks, reciting our vows to anyone listening. Strangers nodding, kin beaming feeds. A scare, heart flutter echoing her fib, but patches mended, ducks marveling. Love's the best I'll go. Travel's pure mind. Everest Base Camp sim, her voice guiding. One step, love. Sahara again. Dunes shifting sands of time. Anniversaries spectral. 55th. Beach with projections. her form beside, hand warm, in glove. Rory's poem overlay. Echoes undying. Rory's swan song. Nobel nod for empathetic AI. Me an audience pod, cane tapping pride. To Nana L's drive, she credited, tears sinking streams. Challenges crested kind. Legacy trust secured. My final book, Heart's Last Lap, a whisper rap. Sales seeding scholarships eternal. In 2085, as autumn leaves emulated our first fall, body betrayed, lungs faltering, bed by window, sound eternal. Kin clustered, Jordan Jr. reading Elena's letters, Rory holding hand. Join her, she urged soft. Breath slowed, rain pattering like that night. Fade to light, her car idling, passenger seat warm, her eyes Arctic blue. Ready, words echo. Let me show you. Engine hums, rain fades, hearts drive home. Eternal, echoing, whole. Epilogue whispers in the wake. Our story, etched in code and coast, inspires legions, nexus evolutions birthing empathy eras, queer loves loud from every server. Elena's echo, my drive, heart's highway unending. True, timeless.